A massive and historic winter storm, unofficially named Winter Storm Fern by the Weather Channel, continues to dominate headlines across the United States as of January 25, 2026, unleashing a punishing combination of heavy snow, catastrophic ice accumulations, sleet, and dangerously cold Arctic air that has affected an estimated 160 to 235 million people, roughly half to two-thirds of the nation's population, spanning more than 33 states from the southern plains and Texas through the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and into the Northeast. The storm's enormous geographic footprint, stretching nearly 2,000 miles from the Four Corners region to northeastern Maine, has prompted meteorologists to compare it to the legendary 1993 Storm of the Century, with widespread winter storm warnings, ice storm warnings, and blizzard conditions in effect across large swaths of the country. The National Weather Service has described the event as one of the most extensive and potentially destructive winter weather systems in recent memory, fueled by a disrupted polar vortex that has pulled frigid Canadian air southward while drawing deep moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, creating ideal conditions for prolonged and severe wintry precipitation. Air travel has been thrown into complete disarray, with airlines canceling more than 10,000 flights nationwide over the January 23 to 25 weekend and into early next week. By Saturday, January 24th, at least 3,400 flights had already been canceled or delayed, with thousands more expected on Sunday and Monday as the storm moves eastward. Major hubs such as Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, Atlanta, Chicago O'Hare, New York, JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, Boston Logan, Washington Dulles, and Minneapolis St. Paul have borne the brunt of the cancellations, with heavy snow, ice-covered runways, freezing fog, and strong crosswinds grounding operations for hours at a time. Carriers including Delta, American Airlines, United, Southwest, and others have issued broad travel waivers, allowing passengers to rebook or change flights without change fees through at least January 26th to 28 in most cases. Stranded travelers have shared stories of frustration and improvisation, with one passenger forced to reroute from Houston to Omaha via Los Angeles commenting, "If you live in the Midwest and travel in the winter, stuff can happen." The storm's most lethal threat remains the catastrophic ice accumulation in the south and southeast, where freezing rain and sleet are building layers of ice up to half an inch thick in many areas, and isolated spots could see a full inch or more. This heavy, clinging ice is forecast to snap power lines, topple trees onto homes, vehicles, and roads, crush utility poles, and render travel extremely hazardous or entirely impossible. The National Weather Service has issued urgent warnings of long-duration power outages that could last several days in regions from Texas through Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas, areas not typically equipped for such intense winter weather. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has repeatedly assured residents that the state's power grid, operated by ERCOT, is significantly stronger and better winterized than during the deadly February 2021 freeze, which killed at least 246 people and left millions without electricity for days. Nevertheless, utility companies across multiple states have mobilized thousands of line workers, pre-positioned heavy equipment, and placed contractors on standby in anticipation of widespread failures. At least 18 states, plus the District of Columbia, have declared states of emergency, including Alabama, Arkansas, Delaware, Georgia, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Missouri, New Jersey, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. President Donald Trump has approved federal emergency declarations for more than 10 of these states, unlocking direct federal assistance through FEMA, including generators, meals ready to eat, blankets, and urban search and rescue teams pre-positioned along the storm's path. In a social media post, Trump stated that his administration is closely coordinating with governors and local officials, emphasizing that FEMA is fully prepared to respond, and highlighting improvements made to vulnerable infrastructure since previous disasters. The federal government has placed 30 search and rescue teams on alert, and FEMA has distributed millions of meals, hundreds of thousands of blankets, and hundreds of generators to support response efforts. Compounding the physical dangers, an extreme Arctic blast has driven wind chills to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit and even minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit in parts of the northern plains, Midwest, and upper Great Lakes, prompting school closures, business shutdowns, and non-essential activity bans in cities like Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit, and Bismarck, North Dakota. Nearly 177 million Americans remain under active ice, snow, or blizzard warnings, while more than 200 million are covered by extreme cold alerts. Vulnerable populations, particularly the homeless, face acute, life-threatening risks. In Jackson, Mississippi, nonprofits have rapidly converted warehouses into emergency cold shelters after heating failures at regular facilities. In Detroit and other northern cities, organizations such as the Pope Francis Center have opened additional sleeping spaces for individuals forced to sleep in vehicles or outdoors. Public health officials warn that exposure to these sub-zero wind chills can cause frostbite or hypothermia within minutes, urging communities to provide shelter, warmth, and support. Amid the storm's widespread disruption, other national concerns persist. Ongoing controversy surrounds federal immigration enforcement operations, particularly in Minneapolis, where federal agents fatally shot a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, Alex Preddy, during a raid on January 24, 2026. This incident marks the second deadly encounter in the city involving federal agents in under a month, sparking large protests, tear gas deployments, and the activation of the Minnesota National Guard by Governor Tim Walz to assist local law enforcement. Walz has publicly demanded that President Trump halt the violent, untrained federal surge, which involves 2,000 agents in what ICE describes as the largest immigration operation ever conducted in the state. Eyewitness accounts and video footage dispute federal claims of self-defense, showing agents wrestling Preddy to the ground before shots were fired, leading to calls for independent investigations and nationwide demonstrations against the administration's immigration policies. Health officials are also monitoring rising measles outbreaks and increased flu cases that are overwhelming emergency rooms, especially among children. The CDC reports 416 confirmed measles cases in 2026 so far, the highest in 30 years, with major outbreaks in South Carolina, 700 cases, Utah, 216, Arizona, and other states, prompting a review of the U.S. measles elimination status achieved in 2000. Flu activity remains elevated in some regions, with 44 pediatric flu deaths reported this season and increased ER visits among school-aged children, 5 to 17 years old, including cases requiring ventilators in states like Michigan. Officials continue to urge vaccinations and caution as winter weather and crowded indoor conditions exacerbate the spread of respiratory illnesses. The storm is expected to linger into early next week, with the potential for a secondary low-pressure system to intensify impacts in the Northeast. Residents are strongly advised to avoid all non-essential travel. Stock emergency kits with food, water, batteries, flashlights, and blankets. Keep devices charged, monitor National Weather Service updates closely, and prepare for prolonged power outages and travel chaos. Stay safe, stay informed, and take every precaution as this historic winter event continues to unfold across the nation.